Good morning. My name is Annette Mueller. If you don't know me, PGY4, and this is my senior lecture. Feedback is a gift. First of all, thank you to Dr. Willis, Dr. Hassel, Dr. Rebollo, who is on the flight back from Puerto Rico, and Dr. Adrian Arachikoa. Did I say it right? Arpachea. And I practiced this. And my friend Vera from Germany for your help with my preparation. So when I was researching for this lecture, I found this. So Yoda is one of my favorites, but I think he's a little bit pessimistic in this page. So I made my own meme, and it's this one. So emergency is the best residency, right? We're just the best specialty. We have pathologies and patients. We have different acuities. We treat everyone who comes through the door, no matter if they're rich or poor, no matter if they're insured or not, right? But then this happened. So things got a little bit harder. We're now in a global pandemic. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, but we don't really know how long this is going to take. The job market this year is tougher than it's ever been before, and there's a projected oversupply of EM docs at the end of the decade. Still, as far as I hear, my class is doing great. Congratulations to all of you. But finally, there's also private equity. Angela talked about it too, that is tightening their grip on emergency medicine, and they're imposing their corporate cultures on emergency departments. For my senior lecture, I want to first talk about organizational cultures. What is an organizational culture? It's a major factor in an organization's ability to achieve its mission. I want to look at a few organizational mission statements first. So here, Google wants to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Starbucks wants to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Blackstone is, I love it too, yeah. Blackstone wants to deliver enhanced returns and capital preservation over the long term. If you don't know, Blackstone owns Team Health, one of the major players in the emergency medicine market. NYC Health and Hospital wants to deliver high-quality health services with compassion, dignity, and respect to all, regardless of income, gender identity, or immigration status. I looked for the mission of our EM residency, and thank you, Dr. Hassel, for sending it to me. It's actually on Clinical Monsters. It's a little bit longer than the other ones. It's an awesome mission. It's very resident focused. I'm not going to read it, but I highlighted. It's all about us, all about the residents. So a key factor, if an organization achieves its mission, is the organizational culture. So let's look at organizational cultures. For a very long time, the focus in business organizations was on building high-performance cultures. The irony is that building these high-performance cultures can be overwhelming to employees and negatively impact their ability to perform well in the long run. Business research recently particularly has shown that a high-performance culture is not the best way to drive long-term results. In performance-obsessed cultures, the most important thing is the financial result. These cultures do not put a lot of focus on individual growth, provided financial results are being achieved. The aim of the performance-driven culture is to increase revenue as quickly as possible with minimum investment. The focus is usually on things like minimizing resource and personnel costs, maximizing working hours, and doing away with pretty much everything that doesn't directly contribute to profit. This behavior undermines an organization's health in the long run. If you want to drive sustainable performance, you need to focus on a culture of growth. This is particularly true in organizations that build on each employee's skill and capability. I would like to introduce what the term growth culture means. How does growth culture look like in practice? A growth culture cares about more than just financial results. It's a set of beliefs and an organizational mindset that is focused on helping employees develop their full potential. There's a common set of characteristics for growth cultures. Let's take a look at these. The common characteristics of a growth culture in general are a safe environment, space for experimentation, focus on continuous learning, and continuous feedback. This gentleman is Edmund Burke. He was an Irish statesman, economist, and philosopher in the 18th century. And one of his most famous quotes is, "No passion so effectually robs the mind of all its powers of acting and reasoning as fear." In a growth culture, a safe environment stands for an environment that feels safe to employees. It's not physical safety, that's also important in the ED, I don't discount that. But this refers to psychological safety. My old professor at Harvard Business School, Amy Edmondson, wrote the bestseller, The Fearless Organization. In her book, she states that psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. It's a culture that allows people to take risks, and employees are not afraid that they will have to face consequences for every little mistake. As a result, employees will stretch themselves and get out of their comfort zone, without which there is no growth. Safe environments also mean that leaders are not afraid of showing their vulnerability and taking personal responsibility for their mistakes and shortcomings. Leaders in such environments are open and transparent to act as role model for their staff. Professor Edmondson showed that organizations with a high level of psychological safety perform better on pretty much every metric. She defined 4 key levers of fearless organizations: willingness to help, inclusivity and diversity, attitude to risk and failure, and open conversations. It's an amazing book. I recommend it to everyone if you have a lot of extra time during a residency. If you're interested, there's also a self-assessment of your current safety in your professional environment that you can take on her website. I'm happy to share the website. Organizations with a growth mindset are focused on continuous learning and development by encouraging values like curiosity, critical thinking, inquiry, creativity, and transparency instead of self-protection, certainty, and judgment. This creates the ideal breeding ground for creativity and innovation and often leads to improved performance. Sorry to all the vegetarians in the audience. I think this is an amazing picture. I want to first tell a little story about the pot roast. So there was a woman hosting a dinner party and she served this amazing pot roast. One of the guests came up to her and asked for the recipe. So she wrote it down. The guest read the recipe and had a question. So why do you say at some point you have to cut off the ends of the meat? She didn't really know. She said, that's in the recipe. My mom gave me that recipe. She always used to do that. Later she asked her mom, so mom, why do you cut off the ends of the pot roast? And the mom thought about it and she was like, I don't really know. It's in the recipe. My mom did it like that already. At some point, the lady talked to her grandma, who was excited to hear from her. And they talked about the question. And grandma said, well, you know, if I don't cut off the ends of the meat, it doesn't fit in my biggest pan. What I'm wanting to say about this, growth-oriented companies do not hold on to beliefs and outdated ways of doing things. They understand that clinging to the status quo is dangerous and can lead to negative consequences for the organization. They're constantly testing assumptions and trying to find new ways of doing things. This is done by providing time and space to conduct experiments. The space for experimentation leads to greater willingness to think out of the box and to less attachment to the status quo. In the business world, Google did that first. Google allowed their employees to spend 20% of their work time on their own side projects. So this is like 1 day out of 5 work days, a significant share. And so people that did their side projects, and some great things that came out of it were Gmail, Google News, and Google Talk. Who knows the company Odeo? Anyone? It's a podcasting platform. And they also had those side projects. And one of their employees had a side project that turned into Twitter. So everyone knows Twitter right now, not really Odeo. So you see that giving your employees space for experimentation doesn't only help their growth, it can also be the next step in your organization's growth. But it is impossible for employees to experiment when they're constantly overwhelmed by work. You need to give them some time and some incentive to come up with ideas that could end up being your organization's next step of growth. Organizations with a growth mindset also understand that's impossible to learn and grow without feedback. There's a good number of publications out there in the medical field right now that talk about feedback, but it's still growing. There's much more in the business publication side. Basically, those publications state that feedback is critical to learner development in medicine. Growth organizations make a commitment to continuously share feedback to help each other grow. This feedback is given in a hierarchy-free manner, up and down and across the organization. And in addition, people in growth organizations don't see feedback as criticism. They see it as an opportunity to learn and to develop further. In preparation of this lecture, I surveyed the program's alumni and the current residents to assess where our residency stands in those 4 elements of a growth culture. Just a few quick stats. 2 surveys, 32 alumni responded. You see the tenure distribution here. 24 current residents responded. Thank you, guys. I sent that survey probably 15 times. Thank you for your patience. Everything I'm saying from now on only represents those responses. I don't know how far it can be extrapolated. It also does not represent the PGY5s because none of them answered my survey. So first, did residency provide a safe environment for you? Psychological safety, where you felt comfortable about being yourself, expressing your opinions, and trying to achieve your potential. The alumni stated 66% they strongly agreed and agreed. 12% strongly disagreed. Current residents, 75% strongly agreed or agreed, and 25% disagreed or strongly disagreed. As Professor Edmondson said, organizations with a higher level of psychological safety perform better on pretty much every metric. Did residency focus on continuous learning, meaning encouraging values like curiosity, critical thinking, inquiry, creativity, and transparency, instead of self-protection, certainty, and judgment? The alumni strongly agree and agree to 81%, 9% disagree or strongly disagree. The current residents, 75% strongly agree and agree, and 4% disagree. Did residency give you space for experimentation, which means openness to challenge the status quo mindset of constantly testing assumptions and trying to find new ways of doing things? 75% alumni strongly agree and agree, 15% strongly disagree or disagree. Current residents say 54% strongly agree and agree, and 21% disagree. And the fourth, did residency offer continuous feedback? Feedback is shared continuously and given in a hierarchy-free manner, up and down and across the organization. 41% of the alumni strongly agreed or agreed, 31% strongly disagreed or disagreed, and 17% of current residents strongly agreed or agreed, and 54% disagreed. We saw on those pages that there is some potential for improvement across all 4 dimensions of a growth culture. It looks like there's the biggest opportunity in the section of feedback, and that's why I'm going to spend the rest of my presentation on feedback. I asked the current residents about feedback they were receiving. 80% felt that they did not get feedback frequently enough, and 44% disagreed with the notion that feedback was generally helpful. I also asked the residents about the feedback they were receiving. What makes feedback helpful, and what makes it less helpful? Here's just a quick summary. Sorry for the many words on the page, Dr. Hassel. What makes feedback helpful? It should be immediately after shift, specific. It should be based on longer-term observations. It should be actionable with suggestions. It should be face-to-face, genuine, honest, and caring. What makes feedback less helpful? It's delayed. People refer to new innovations forms. It's generic or vague. It's generalization of one single event or observation. It's numerical evaluations without comments or examples, or it is anonymous. I asked the attendings how they felt about feedback, and they generally responded that they received very little feedback. Some people even wrote that they got fewer responses than even during residency. I also asked the attendings, the alumni, how they preferred to give feedback and what made it difficult. How do you prefer to give feedback to residents? People stated they wanted to give it direct, face-to-face, and in person. They wanted to give it either during or after, right after shift. During shift, if there were any errors or near misses they wanted to address. They wanted to do debriefs after recess or procedures. They wanted to be specific with examples, and they wanted to do it in private. There's one person who wrote he or she wanted to give feedback screaming and in German. So I don't know who that was, but if you are comfortable identifying yourself, I'm going to buy you a beer. What do you find difficult about, is that person in the audience? No, please tell me who you are. I laughed so much. So what do you find difficult about giving feedback to residents? Finding time. If you work with several residents, 10 minutes per resident after shift, you have to find a setting with privacy is difficult. People were very concerned that the feedback may hurt residents' feelings or offend them, that residents might argue or be defensive, that it's difficult to give negative feedback when one does not have a good relationship already with a resident, and they were worried about compromising their existing relationship if they give negative feedback. You see that there's two sides to feedback. So I'm very briefly going to talk about the side of receiving feedback, and then I'm going to go right back to the side of giving feedback. Feedback is a gift. Imagine yourself visiting your auntie Eugenia, and she has a gift for you. She gives you the package, and you open it, and this sweater is in the package. So you put this sweater in your bag, you go home. When you're home, you take the sweater out of the bag, you put it on, you stand in front of the mirror, you look at yourself. You see, does the sweater fit you? Is it right for you? Do you like the sweater on you? If you do, you wear it with pride. If you don't, you have to choose what to do. You either throw it in the trash, you donate it to Salvation Army, or you sell it on eBay, which you would find that this is a Stella McCartney sweater that goes for $1,300. So what you wouldn't do is you wouldn't start yelling at your auntie while she's giving you the sweater. You wouldn't start criticizing the sweater. You wouldn't throw it back in her face. So feedback is a gift. Please treat feedback like a gift. All feedback. So I asked our attendings what would make it easier to give feedback. They said, I'm giving more frequent, regular feedback. Practice giving positive and negative feedback. Normalizing negative and constructive feedback. That's all really feedback culture. Also protected built-in time for feedback after shift. Anonymous feedback, a few people, residents don't really like that. Getting to know residents a bit, residents requesting feedback, and developing a better style to give feedback. Don't do this. Some people still believe in the feedback burger, where you basically say a little thing nice, then critique, and then a little bit nice again. So what happens if you do this is people look through this. Whenever you say something positive, the person is going to wait for the but. So I strongly advocate for feedback keto. Cut the bun, go straight to the feedback. But how do you do that? My old company was very feedback intense. I just put this as an example. In McKinsey, it was a true 360-degree feedback system. They don't like the feedback burger much, but they had their own instructions how feedback was supposed to look like. It's supposed to be specific, fact-based, less personal, irrefutable, and actionable. We also were told how to present the feedback, to start with a specific observation, express how the impression was we had when this happened, and then suggest how to possibly do it better the next time. It was a real shock to join that company. And in the beginning, it was horrifying to get all that constructive, negative feedback. But if it happens all the time, you get used to it and you become much more comfortable. And it shifts from being scared to actually evaluating the constructive feedback a lot and seeing it as an opportunity. This is not really how things work in medicine. In medicine, the ACGME requires some very formalized feedback. The new innovations forums, as I understand it, the annual reviews. Spontaneous feedback is more rare. It's often the good job after shift, or you need to read more. But how should attendings and senior residents learn how to give good feedback? I looked around, and on the Johns Hopkins website, I found this. So Johns Hopkins teaches its faculty how to give feedback. It's a very compact 30-minute e-learning module. And after you've completed this module, you get a laminated card that reminds you of how to give feedback well. That's nice. I don't think we have anything like that. At the same time, structured trainings are nice, but what I believe is more important is the mindset behind the feedback, the organizational culture, the feedback culture. I was very impressed during my research for this lecture when I found this book, another one that you should really read during your spare time. This book by Kim Scott provides insight into a way of giving feedback that she calls radical candor. She is the co-founder of an executive education firm, and she currently she advises companies on how to improve their feedback culture. Before that, she worked at Google. She was faculty at Apple University. She was CEO of several Silicon Valley companies, including Dropbox and Twitter. So what is radical candor? It's a 2x2. Every consultant loves 2x2s. Let's look at the axis. The vertical axis, in her words, is the give a damn axis. If your employees know that you care about them, you can give them feedback in a very different, much more direct way. This requires actually that you really care about the employees. You can't really teach leaders to care about their people. It has to come from inside. So to be a good leader, you have to care about your people. The horizontal axis is the willingness to piss off people. Her words. This is a challenge for many people. Many people like to go by the motto, if you don't have anything nice to say, better don't say anything. But once you've reached a leadership position, that's not an option for you. Your job is to address problems directly. And Kim Scott calls it an obligation of a leader. She tells the story where she had this employee. He was the nicest guy. Everyone loved him, but he was horrible at his job. Nobody wanted to say anything because he was just so lovely. And then at some point she had to fire him. And when she did that, he just looked at her and asked her, why did no one tell me? Why didn't you give me a chance to fix it? At the intersection of caring personally and challenge directly is the radical candor. It's based on good relationships. The majority of people have problems with the challenging directly aspect. The survey also showed that. At the other end of the segment is ruinous empathy. In ruinous empathy, the leader is so fixated on not hurting anyone's feeling in the moment that they don't tell them things that they need to know in the long run. Trying to be nice to someone and not giving them negative feedback is impeding their growth. Don't give people fake reassurance, even if it feels more comfortable than being honest. Scott says in other surveys, people actually preferred this lower right quadrant of obnoxious aggression over the ruinous empathy, because at least they knew what they were at. Obviously, obnoxious aggression is not really a safe environment and has other problems for that reason. The worst of the four quadrants is the manipulative insincerity. Those are leaders, they don't care about their people, they don't really speak up. They might give false reassurances because they want to be liked, or they might be backstabbing people, or they might try to get some political advantage in any way. This is a lot of information. So how does radical candor look like? We like mnemonics in medicine. So there's one mnemonic, you can go with HIP. So radical candid feedback should be humble, helpful, immediate, in person, in private, particularly if it's negative, and it should not personalize. You describe something that you observed. You do not attack the person or the personality. Kim Scott gives a few tips on how to achieve an organizational culture that uses radical candor. She has actually 5 specific steps. The first step is leading by example. She says basically you shouldn't dish it out before you show that you can take it. So she suggests that you put up the 2x2 in your office, and after every conversation with your people, you ask them to put a Post-it on the quadrant where that conversation was. And you encourage them to be honest. You get direct feedback, you show that you can take it, and you keep working on yourself. The second was make backstabbing impossible. She says, do not let people talk about others behind their back. They have to talk to them directly, or you talk with both of them. There is no talking behind anyone's back. Third, make it easier to speak truth to power. That is directly the safe environment. People need to feel empowered to speak honestly to each other and to superiors. The fourth one is listen to what the stewardess says on board of the plane. Also listen to what Priscilla says in her amazing senior lecture. You cannot care about your people if you don't care about yourself. So prioritize your own wellness and you can be a better leader to your juniors. And fifth point, commit to the journey. You will not become radically candid overnight. And you also probably won't be radically candid 100% of the times. If you are currently in the ruinous empathy side, you will have to push yourself very hard. You might feel like a complete jerk while you're trying it until you finally move over towards the challenging directly. But if your people know that's what you're working on, they will understand and they will support you. This was a lot of information. And next time you want to rethink feedback that you just gave and you want to figure out if you were radically candid, I recommend you think about the last time Dr. D'Souza gave you feedback. Because he pretty much, all the feedback that I got from him was pretty much radically candid. I'm almost at the end of my presentation. Let me just share the aspiration I have for leaders in our department in regards to continuous feedback. I would like all of the leaders in our department to be feedback warriors. You have to have respect, earn the authority to critique others' performance by being a role model and by building relationships with your people. Have integrity, speak with honesty, fairness, and clarity. Courage, take action in spite of the fearful energy. Loyalty, pledge an allegiance to your team's success. And duty, be specific, actionable, and timely in providing feedback. I was thinking about making this a nice laminated card, but then I didn't really have time for it. Sorry about that. So this is my senior lecture, and that's why I'm not going to put a summary page, and I'm not going to ask you for your questions. But if you have any questions, anytime, I love to discuss this. Email me, talk to me. Instead, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to ask you if there was any takeaway from this lecture that you would like to try out today or tomorrow. Anyone wants to share? Any thoughts? Adrian.
I really love the 2x2. Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm going to keep in mind when I'm giving feedback, and I'm really going to think, you know, what is going to be the difference between ruinous empathy and radical candor.
Any other takeaways? Paul.
Thanks again for the lecture. Yeah, as you look at the 2x2, I'm thinking of situations even in the last year. Maybe not the bottom left, but the top left of that bottom right, top right of feedback I've gotten and the emotional reaction that I felt afterwards, not only in the immediacy, but also in the 24 hours afterwards. And the top right, it basically is like a half hour. I'm able to integrate everything and then move forward in a very positive direction. But the bottom right stays with me for 24 hours, and then there's like another wave at 48 hours, and then you're over it.
Yeah.
And it's great to see how the different feedbacks can be categorized and the emotional reactions that I've had.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Chief.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I think I totally agree with that. The 2x2 can be pretty amazing. I think one maybe takeaway is that we actually have like the senior residents, the regional floors, it's perfect. You can take that 10 minutes at the end of your shift and like specifically provide feedback to your junior residents. Whereas like I understand some of the attendings, like it can be difficult, especially if there's like 5 residents. But if you're the senior, I think it's an awesome opportunity to give feedback and to practice your skills of giving feedback. I think we should be doing it basically every day.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
One more. I think I think one of the best ways to kind of start this is in CCT, because you're working as a team the whole time. You know all the cases together, and you were with each other basically the entire time. It can be a little more difficult in the pod because it sometimes are so independent, but in CCT it's totally an opportunity to begin that kind of feedback culture in that scenario, to just make it standard that after rounds feedback, which I think is already happening, but let's use it for
Yeah, I mean, more along the same lines of the pre-attending shifts, it can just be a sort of
so I have to speed up. Sophia gives me the time warning. So I'll be much shorter than Stacy in my last pages. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to give me feedback and to support me in my personal and professional growth over the time of the residency.